after a year since we saw a teaser trailer that ended with the word soon, and if Sony's paying attention, they're not. Soon is not 11 months. Soon is maybe like 2 months max.
Well, according to like the time of the universe, it's pretty soon.
But we've finally now seen what MediEvil for PS4 looks like, and it's looking pretty good. I'm Mitch, and joining me is Jordan and Russell. So, Russell, as the official MediEvil expert, do you like what you saw?
I definitely think is what I expected to see. Yeah, well, it's a huge improvement of what the original was, and visually and gameplay wise, especially the camera. That was the thing that stood out to me the most, was that the camera was something that was heavily critiqued in the originals, and something that it's definitely adjusted. I think it's perhaps made it look more arcadey than the original. Like the trailer certainly gave me an arcadey vibe more than it gave me like the Tim Burton-esque horror vibe that I feel like the original went for. But I definitely didn't feel like it was what Resurrection was, which was more like a Monty Python-esque kind of like a Halloween episode. Like it was just more humor focused.
More fable.
This definitely feels more fable. This was definitely more what the original was compared to what Resurrection was.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how the camera change makes it look arcadey. But I do actually think it does look arcadey. Like, the way it just moves around and stuff, it just looks like an arcade game more so than, as you said. Jordan, do you like what you saw? Are you going to be buying MediEvil?
Well, I never played it originally other than like a few
I.
little bits on a demo disc. But looking at it, going along the same aspect as Crash and Spyro, I'm definitely interested in buying this just to see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, like if you want to learn more about the MediEvil, we've got a whole thing about that. I like to plug it because it's our most popular thing. This whole channel was built on MediEvil. So shout out to MediEvil. Russell, do you think it's a mistake not to include two? Like create a bigger collection?
It's one of those things where you already have the competition. I don't know if you call it competition, but you certainly have the example set by Crash and Spyro. And when they're including all three of those games together in one package, and then MediEvil's going, we're just going to give you the first one, it's weird. Like, all I can think of is that just testing the waters and that MediEvil 2 is either already in production or they're just waiting to see if the MediEvil 1 would be successful enough to make it worthwhile. But it's certainly, when you just compare it, it's weird. And just on a personal level, like, I actually did like MediEvil 2 more. I like the Victorian era vibe. That's just something that appealed to me more. As such a Batman fan, just like Jack the Ripper, like all these like pipe things.
You're a fan of Jack the Ripper? He's not a great guy.
Well, I like that time period, Sherlock Holmes, like it's a cooler era, and I like how it was like a fish out of water with Sedan being there. And even though this is certainly classic MediEvil, I just feel like it just feels like just a mistake not to include that game in this bundle. I just feel like it ties. I mean, they could be hiding it. There's a possibility that is going to be in it, and they just haven't revealed that fact yet, because everything we saw was like from the first couple of levels. Like, we're talking like maybe the first 4 levels of the game. They didn't show really anything beyond that. Now, admittedly, MediEvil isn't a particularly long game either, and it's not like a collectathon. Like, you do have the gauntlets, the goblets that you use to take to the Horde of Heroes to get the new weapons and stuff, but it's not a long game by any means. So I can imagine like it's going to. It can't be the price tag of what Spyro and stuff, because Crash and stuff are already very cheap. So it has to be cheaper than that. So I don't know if almost it's going to be almost like indie cheap, like we're talking like $30 Australian for this game.
Has Sony released a game that's indie levels pricing of like a big-ish kind of remake? Because as far as I know, I can't think of one. Because usually they've done remasters in trilogies as well. Sony Japan Studios sometimes release games that are definitely that indie kind of field, or ones that they've like supported, like Unfinished Swan and whatnot. Those ones like are technically indie games that they've nurtured, so it's got that aspect to it. So I feel like if they're going to charge, I mean, it's absolutely not going to be a full price game. It can't be. Crash and Spyro set the stage, and also Ratchet and Clank as well, because that was a similar one where they did the first game. That was $49.99 at launch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I mean, it has to. It can't be that, but I really do think it'll be less than. I think it'll be indie tier type price. Not to undersell it, but I just feel like Sony won't sell it at such a high market price for a game that is quite short overall.
It's also kind of niche a little bit too, so...
I was going to say, I think that really works for it, though, because I feel like the fact that you and Jordan hasn't played it, I think there's people like me who remember it fondly, and I think there's people who also remember it but never played it. It was like MediEvil was that game that was like, I remember seeing that, I just never got around to playing it. I think that's going to work for it as well. It's like, oh, that's a game from the past that I remember seeing, but I perhaps never played it. Or I did play it and I enjoyed it. Or maybe like, oh, I did play it, but I had problems with the controls or whatever, and I want to see what they've done now with a remake.
One of the things with it is, by only having the first one on there, it might, if it piques enough people's interest, they might be like, I want more of this stuff, and then that's when they'll put the second one instead of putting them both in the same thing.
Well, that's what I kind of feel like with remakes and stuff. They kind of just... These are the cheapest way to test the waters on this series. So I'm not sure if MediEvil getting a follow-up makes sense, but...
It's one of those things, again, just because Crash and Spyro have trilogies doesn't mean that every game has to have a trilogy. You may think... It's like you may think that might be the case, but at the same time, just having one is better than none.
Yeah, true, but it's still like comparing the value of like a collection of 3 games versus one game, and just like where the value is in that, and just how it stacks up for the consumer.
It also seems like Sean Layden is heavily involved with bringing this one back, and I believe it's because he directly assisted in some way in making the first game. Where I don't think he was involved at all with the second one. So I think he had some involvement with the first game. I'm not sure exactly what he is, but he always talks about like, oh, I worked on that game or assisted with that game back in the day. So I think he had some involvement with the original MediEvil, and that's why he wants to bring it back.
Yeah, he's got an internal power to make that happen.
I mean, the other interesting thing is like, you know, so the Sony Cambridge that made the original game was shut down like in 2017. But all we know right now is like Jason Wilson is pretty confidently reprising his role as Sir Dan, because I think he tweeted out like. Him like a bucket on his head again, or a mumble or whatever it was. So it's like he seems like he's coming back. The music in the trailer, I'm pretty confident is from Resurrection. It's not a new score. I'm not that I'm saying that the game won't have a new score. It's just I don't believe they've confirmed there is a new score being composed yet. But it will have to have one because Resurrection was a bit of a how they combined it was different. They also had new tracks, and they also had I can't remember which one it was. One of them fused some music from the second game as well in there. But Bob and Baum, the composers, I expect, considering they did all the other ones, they will reprise their role for this game.
Yeah. Do we have a good guess on when do we think this would release?
Next year for sure.
They said 2019. I think they mean it.
I'm going to say it'd probably be around Halloween next year, I'd imagine.
It's a long time. Like it's a good time.
But they did say soon last time, and it took a year. So why not?
That's true. And they haven't shown us anything late in the game, so it's possible that it is still early in production. So I don't think Halloween's impossible. I doubt it's going to be the first half of the year, unless they do a surprise like E3 reveal. In the announcement, like, oh, it's coming out in a couple of weeks or something, or even coming out now if they do that indie push, because that's always the thing. It's like. If you imagine this game on a shelf, you can't just suddenly drop it. You have to like lead up to the announcement. But if you release it digitally, then you can go, oh yeah, we can go to E3 and go, here's MediEvil's out today.
A good shadow drop.
Unravel and Sony did it with a couple of ones too. They certainly could do that if it was a digital game. Even though I very much want a physical copy, I just feel like
it'll be physical.
This thing will be at.
Just to have it sitting next to Crash and Spyro on a shelf would just look so good.
I was going to make it.
That's on the disc.
Yeah, at least this one. It's probably on the disc. But my guess would be maybe around August, September, kind of.
They'll put it out when it's available, but they won't want to... Days Gone being pushed back from its original date.
Now in April.
I think they'll want to make sure it's beyond that at the very least. Exactly when, I'm not sure. I know, so there's a very, very high possibility that next year we will start getting reveals of the PS5. So I think August, September is probably pretty likely, or the Halloween date.